What I want to bring to our attention here is that on page 369 of this volume 1 of a 5-volume set of the Zohar, Rabbi Simeon is giving a discourse on the verse which says, "And I will remember my covenant with Jacob," which, of course, we've just told you, has an added vav to it. He said, quote, "The name Jacob is here written in full with the letter vav. For what reason? In the first place, it's an allusion to the grade of wisdom, the realm where Jacob dwells." Now, I don't know about that, but that's what he says. But the chief reason is because the passage speaks of the exile of Israel, intimating that the redemption of Israel will come about through the mystic force of the letter Vav, namely, in the 6th millennium, and more precisely, now here's his gematria, after 6 seconds and a half a time, when the 60th year shall have passed over the threshold of the 6th millennium. Gary, the 60th year has to be the year 5760, which is our year 2000.
Yes.
That's the threshold of the crossing the 6th millennium into the 7th millennium. And so he says, the God of heaven will visit the daughter of Jacob with a preliminary remembrance. Another 6.5 years will then elapse, and there will be a full remembrance of her. I think the her here refers to the land. He gives it a feminine title here, as he remembers the land. And he goes on to say 6.5 years. That's in the spring of 2006.
2006. Wow. And by the way, J.R. has quoted extensively. You really won't have to obtain the volume if you have the magazine, because he's quoted from the Zohar. J.R., the her, you know, Israel is represented in Scripture as a woman, too, particularly in Revelation chapter 12. We see Israel as a woman.
Yes.
So it's not out of reason to think of Israel in the
people and the land go together.
People and the land go together.
Now, he goes on to say, in the year 66, the Messiah will appear in the land of Galilee. Well, Gary, Rabbi Kaduri, you know, in the year 2006, wrote this little cryptic note giving us the name of the Messiah.
Which he said was Yeshua, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of fascinating.
Now, following that, this goes on to say, this is Rabbi Simeon talking here. He said, a star in the east will swallow 7 stars in the north, and a flame of black fire will hang in the heaven for 60 days, and there shall be wars toward the north, in which 2 kings shall perish. Now, Gary, that sounds like the battle of Gog and Magog. It doesn't say it will happen in the year 66. It just simply says, you know, that these things lead up to following the year 66.5. That would be the year 2006. So somewhere in the near future, he's looking for a big battle. And then it goes on further to say, and by the way, 2 kings shall perish. I have not a clue as to who those might be. He says, then all the nations shall combine together against the daughter of Jacob. There's the feminine side of it again, her. The daughter of Jacob, in order to drive her from the world. Wow. And it is of that time that it is written, and it is a time of trouble unto Jacob, but out of it he shall be saved. Jeremiah 30, verse 7. So he goes right back to Jeremiah again. He's the expert on these sabbatical years.
We find the pattern over and over again. Now, that extra vav in Jacob's name has given great significance because it's the 3rd letter in the divine name that's translated Lord in the Old Testament, namely Yahweh or Jehovah, the Yud He Vav He. The 3rd letter there is the Vav. And because it's the 3rd letter in that divine name, they give it great emphasis and use that to if you will, calculate numbers.
Listen to what he says on page 370. This is Rabbi Simeon now. In the year 73, and that would be 2013. That would be 5773, or the year 2013.
2013. Now let's see. That would be 6 years from now.
Yeah. And he goes on to say, all the kings of the world will assemble in the great city of Rome, and the Holy One, the Lord, will shower on them fire and hail and meteoric stones until they are all destroyed, with the exception of those who will not yet have arrived there. These will commence anew to make other wars.
And the mystic force of this letter Vav, it's something you need to read about. J.R. has documented it very well in the article in ways that we simply don't have time enough to follow here on the program. But J.R., the mystic force of the letter Vav is something that religious Jews speak of routinely. And they speak of the Vav and the Hey in the name of Jehovah as being ripped apart at a certain point in time.
Yes.
But then they say these two letters are going to be rejoined at a certain point in time.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to page 364, volume 1 of the Zohar. Rabbi Josi and Rabbi Judah are walking along together discussing this. And this is what he says. Rabbi Josi said, "In this way is explained the verse, I, the Lord, will in its time hasten it." That's Isaiah 60:22. And he says the word betah in its time may be resolved into bet-ha in the time of the letter hey. So he refigures this Hebrew study here. He says, when the time arrives for the hay to rise from the dust, I will hasten it. So Rabbi Josi said further, yet the community of Israel is to remain only one day in the dust and no more. Said Rabbi Judah, tradition agrees with what you have said, but observe what we have learned regarding this. Namely, that when the community of Israel was exiled from its home, the letters of the divine name became, if one may say so, separated, the hay flying apart from the vav. We can thus understand the sentence, I was dumb with silence, Psalm 39:3. As through the separation of the vav from the hay, there was no voice, and this utterance was silenced. She therefore lies in the dust all the day of the hay, that is, the whole of the 5th thousand, although they were already in exile before the beginning of the 5th thousand, which is symbolized by the letter hay. And when the 6,000, which is symbolized by the vav, begins, the vav will resuscitate the hay. At 6 times 10, he goes into his formula of calculation here, which means the vav repeated 10 times. The vav will ascend to the yot and redescend to the hay. The vav will be multiplied into the hay 10 times, making 60. And when it will raise the exiles from the dust.
J.R., I have to interrupt because we only have 1 minute left. But the time period you're talking about is the middle of the 19th century.
Yeah.
The time when the Jews began to come back to Israel. And the dust is what they encountered there. They literally turned the dust to fertile ground.
So this says that the Vav ascended to the Yot. Well, the Messiah ascended to the right hand of God. Yeah. The Yot is the right hand of God. And in 1840, he says that he opened the gates of wisdom and all this incredible stuff. And the world will make preparations to enter on the 7,000 as man makes preparation on the 6th day of the week when the sun is about to set. That's Zohar Volume 1, page 364. Well, we'll have to wait and see.